Now it is my delight, pleasure, honor to introduce Missy Day, who is a success coach in culture shift and corporate impact. And that includes corporate leadership, effective communication, multi-generational engagement, team building, and collaborative training. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. So Missy, tell us just a little bit about yourself, what it means to be an entrepreneurial woman, and actually create your tribe, because that's something I've watched you do over the years, and you have some powerful people in your community. And then also why this is a must read for women starting out on their journeys. Missy, take it away.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sophia, for that awesome introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you for including me in today's book launch. And to Jackie, I just want to say congratulations to you on your book and congratulations on your book launch. And it's a pleasure for me to be here and celebrate this with you. So I was raised, my dad was an entrepreneur. He started his own business when he was 20. And in that time frame, all his friends that were successful entrepreneurs were men. So growing up, I never really connected the dots that was an option really for me. So I started out being a social worker and then went to corporate and worked for 20 years. And then they closed our site and my dad said, why don't you start your own business? And it was like, what? That's a crazy idea. And he said, well, you can do it. You know, take everything that you've learned in these 20 plus years and start your own business. And I thought, okay, sure, why not? And I wish I would have had your book at that point in time, because even though, you know, I had a coach at the time, we tend, I think for me at least, I looked at all the big rocks for starting a business and overlooked a lot of the little rocks, which were the important pieces in building the business, which you have included in your book. And I wouldn't say that your book is basic by any means, but it's a perfect roadmap for anybody, especially a woman that wants to look at all the steps that you need to take to be successful, because you include everything in your book that you need, including, as Sophia talked about, the workshops. And, you know, I went some like steps backwards a lot of times in the first couple of years, you know, starting my business. And then, like Sophia said, oh, that would have been good to know when I started my business. And 7 years later, I'm still in a place where it's like, oh, okay, that would probably be a good thing to have in my business. And I think for women too, Tammy made a good comment in the chat box that when you market to everyone, right, then you don't have your clientele. It's like they tell, you know, skincare women, don't stand up and say that your market is anybody that has skin. Well, what does that mean? Because everyone is not your client. And so I'm really glad you made that point too, that you really need to narrow and hone in on who is it that your client is, so you can become more specific and they know exactly what you're looking for. I had a couple of instances being a business coach where when I first started that it wasn't a good fit for me, but I kept charging through, and after it was like, okay, lesson learned there. And, you know, that is definitely not my, you know, client type, and we just weren't a good fit for each other. So I would say as a woman entrepreneur, I am grateful that you have written this book, and I think it's going to be helpful. And actually I have, which is really interesting to me this year with all the craziness, I have 3 women friends who decided to start a business this year. And so your book is going to be going to those 3 women, because I think it's really important that they have that as a foundation to get started. And they're very excited, and I'm very excited for them. And I think it takes a lot of courage to start a business, especially this year. So thank you. Your book came out at perfect timing.
Great. I'm really excited to hear that. And the three women that are going to take the plunge, I hope they do go through the book very carefully and actually together even talk about the charts that they filled out individually and see how they mesh. The whole process as a group could be very, very helpful.
I agree. So it's good. So it's actually, your book is going to become part of my toolbox for sure.
Oh, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So Missy, we have a few more minutes. What message would you have further from your own heart and your own experience to women entrepreneurs as they move forward in their journey? Because it can be very scary. As you know, sometimes it's not that you're not only an entrepreneur, but you're a solopreneur. And that can feel a little isolating. So how would a woman overcome that?
For me, the best thing that I ever did when I started my business was to start networking. That was foreign to me. I didn't know what networking was or why you did it. And I just went, and the first time, they were saying, oh, it's fine, you just stand up and tell your commercial. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. My commercial for what? But that is when, you have the opportunity to be with like-minded individuals who have gone before you and, can help you along the way. And you talked about earlier, Sophia, about finding your tribe. And for me, that's been a huge success for my business, is having a tribe of people that you can go to and say, man, I am really struggling in this, or, can you help me brainstorm on this particular project? And I've done exactly that with you, Sophia. I've done it with Kim, who's also going to be speaking. Sometimes you just need to sit down and get outside of your own head and really have somebody else help you and look at your business and give you ideas. Because sometimes if we get too stuck, then that leads to being paralyzed, and then we don't go anywhere.
I think it's also important to let that person look at your chart, what you said about yourself and your customers, and listen to what they say. You miss that's really important to the customer in your personality, in your organization. All of those things really matter. And then again, looking at your customer, is there a whole group you're missing that the analysis will help you discover? And networking will really help.
I agree. I think, there's a quote that says, if you go alone, you'll go far, but if you go together, you'll go even farther. And I think when we try to do our business alone, that's when we tend to get into trouble, because we really need the power of other people around us to help be successful.
I absolutely agree. That's a great comparison and thought from somebody who has successfully done it. That's very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when you talk about networking, Missy Day, it reminds me there are a lot of networking groups out there. How do you find the right one for you?
That's a great question, because I spent a lot of money in the first 2 or 3 years of my business because I thought I need to be at every single networking event in town. And that's not true. It's not good for your business. And so I just kind of had to sit down with myself one day and say, what value am I bringing to each networking group? And what value am I getting out of each networking group? And is it being cost effective for me and my business? Kind of going back to knowing your audience, you can spend a lot of money in a networking group that's going to get you nowhere, because that's not your audience. And not only is it not your audience, their network is not yours either. And so you have to search out, where your audience lives and then go to those networking events, which took me a while, to do that. But, I got there eventually. And it's a huge lesson learned because you can spin in circles. Plus the fact, when I used to go networking all the time and I'd see everybody else there, I would say, are any of us working? When are we working? Because we all seem to be showing up at all these same events.
What kind of answer did you get?
Well, all of us were like, yeah, no, we're not really working a whole lot. We're just networking.
It can be time consuming.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much. Missy Day, you are a blessing. And I remember the first time I met you, you were facilitating a networking group. And Missy Day does very strange things. She puts toys out. Now, these are adults. Who puts toys out for adults? But she does. And it was interesting to see, well, I want that toy. And people are going and stealing the toys from each other. So we turned into 5-year-olds, and it was great fun. And that goes back to bringing fun into your business and into your outreach to other people. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Congratulations again, Jackie.
Thank you.